So,
We're on.
we're on. Stephanie Horwitz,
Yes.
welcome to the Network Yourself to Success podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm nervous and excited.
Well, so before we start, there's something I have to do. I have to give a shout out to Google for Startup Campus for
Yes.
hosting us. It's Google's home for startups, and Campus offers startups the opportunity to gain access to. Well, I'm actually going to do it like this. Campus offers startups the opportunity to gain access to Google products, connections, and best practices, as well as programming and events for startups. We are now in their creator studio, a state-of-the-art video and podcast room available to startups for free. So you should definitely take advantage of it if you're a startup. For more info on all things campus, check out their website, www.campus.ceo/Tel Aviv. And now back to our guest, our special guest, Stephanie Horwitz.
Hi.
So Stephanie and I go back way long, years ago, when
yeah.
you were running the Jerusalem Village.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, I don't know if I was just starting out. I was a little bit into being a program manager of Kvahim in Jerusalem. And basically since then, I already knew that since the Jerusalem Village, you really blossomed and you really progressed in your career and came on. And now today you're working in SAP, the SAP incubator, SAP accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you give a small introduction about yourself, how you made Aliyah, and also what you've been doing here in Israel since you came, and how you got the positions, the jobs. That's one of the most interesting things.
Yes. Well, thanks again for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I have a lot to share that I hope will be useful and valuable to the listeners. So I am Stephanie. I am 28 years old from West Bloomfield, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. And I made Aliyah 6.5 years ago with Garin Sabar and Nefesh B'Nefesh. I come from a strong Jewish community. No one was too surprised when I moved to Israel. So I was a tank instructor in the IDF for 2 years, and then I moved to Jerusalem, that's when we met, when I was the community manager at Jerusalem Village.
You came right from being a tank commander in the
I went to
tanks?
India for a bit because
Okay.
that's what good Israelis do. So I had some fun in India, and then I moved to Jerusalem. And because of a connection, a friend, Sarah Lieben, she connected me with Lisa Barkan, who founded Jerusalem Village. And the whole goal of that organization, I mean, if you want to talk about a deep dive into networking and schmoozing and people, that was the best possible way to do it. I was new to Jerusalem. I had a few friends. And as the community manager of Jerusalem Village, my job was literally networking, meeting everyone. The whole goal of Jerusalem Village is to bring together young adults and build community, bringing together Olim and Israelis and religious and secular. So my job was networking and coffee dates and meeting the people and making the connections and meeting new people who came to Jerusalem and how can I help them settle here, sit with them over coffee. They love dancing. They love this. They love that. And then me giving them a list of go here, go there, do this, do that, and curating content that would be relevant for young adults in Jerusalem. So I did that. And I ended up looking for work, trying to pivot into the tech sector. And that's another important thing, just if anyone is listening and you're looking to move from the nonprofit world to the tech world and you don't necessarily have a tech background, I'd be happy to help however I can in that regard. That is a pivot I made. And through another connection, a friend, Sabrina Kestenbaum, she helped me get a job at HP Tech Ventures. So the common theme here is up until today, all the jobs I've ever had in Israel are because of connections and because of people I know. And they knew what I was looking for, and they knew me. And I think that's just huge for any Olah in Israel because we're not Israeli. We don't have all the connections built in. You really have to work hard to make that happen, and it can really go a long way. So I did operations, some deal flow and marketing at HP Tech Ventures, which is HP's corporate VC investing in Israeli startups. And that led me to where I am today. I'm the value creation manager at SAP IO, which is SAP's startup program. And we work with early stage B2B startups to connect them with SAP clients, help them with technical integrations into SAP platforms, etc. So in a nutshell, that's what's been happening.
Amazing. Did you have any technical background before that to get into the SAP world? And tell us a little about how did you get that job, the job you have now?
Definitely. No, I didn't have any technical background. No, very weak at math and not great at science, and just the prospect of it was not one of my strong points. Let's just put it that way. Actually, in the Army, as a tank instructor, there is a lot of physics. It is pretty techy, so that was something I had to learn in Hebrew. But I realized that I have some skills and some things that I'm good at or could learn to do that could be relevant in the tech sector. And I love working with people. That's a huge thing that's important to me, and connecting people and helping people. And that's part of my role as a value creation manager, helping the startups in our program succeed, connecting them with the relevant customers, potential customers, doing marketing for them, just kind of trying to help them with their visibility, overall success. And I got this job also because of a connection, because someone said, oh, you should meet Imbar Yacobi from SAPIO. We had coffee. It was when I started at HP, and we kept that relationship. And when this position came around, we had that connection, and that's how I got there.
She called you, or you saw the position open and then you pinged her?
A few different things happened at once. I saw the position opening. A couple friends said, oh, this job, Imbar, remember, whatever. And I'd kept in touch with Imbar. And I reached out to her, and we got coffee, and we spoke a bit about the position a few months before it became public. And I kept it in the back of my mind, and I think she kept me in the back of her mind. And it's those connections. What can I tell you? That's the ticket, I have to say.
Okay, amazing. So the first obvious question I will have to ask is, how is it so different from the U.S. where you're from and here? What do you see the main difference from the Israeli way of reaching out, meeting, connecting?
So the funny thing is, my whole professional career only happened in Israel. I never had that in America. I have to say that the concept of networking and schmoozing is something ingrained in me from a very young age. My parents were and are very involved in the Jewish community in Detroit, and just this concept of meeting people all the time and connections and going to functions and having people over at our house, it was a thing. And it's something my parents still do to this day as they fundraise, as they push their own projects, as they're establishing relationships with people. So networking, connecting is something I always did, but I don't necessarily have that professional experience in America because I did college in America, and then I moved here. And I think there is a strong Olah community here, and people really want to help each other out. Olim are really willing because they know that it's difficult, and they're really happy to help. And I think that's a really special thing here. And Israelis, I mean, a lot of Israelis want to help. They see someone who comes, maybe they come without their family, or they don't have a job, or they came alone, whether it's an ideological reason or whatnot, and people generally want to help. And I think something, just in a few big things that I've learned in general are, one, when you're networking, it's so important to go in with the attitude that you want to make a win-win situation. You can't just go in there with your agenda. How is this person going to help me? How is this person going to help me move forward? You need to genuinely go in thinking, what can I do for this person? And I think that's a huge thing I've taken away, and it's something that I do at every day. I mean, I feel like I'm helping 4 different friends find jobs right now. Just today someone sent me their resume. Yesterday at dance class, someone said she's looking for a job and she's sending me her resume. So it's just something that's always happening, and people help me, and I really try to pay it forward. And I think that's something really special that happens in Israel. I hope it's like that in America too. I can't speak for it. But you do have to put yourself out there. No one's going to do it for you. You have to kind of have the guts, and it's not always fun to self-promote. A lot of people it's not the most comfortable thing, but you have to say, hey, I have these skills, I have these talents, I'm good at X, Y, Z, and people should know that, and start from there.
Great. So I have 2 follow-up questions from what you just said now. One is, you say you have to go in and look for a win-win situation, which is the, what do you call it? The basics of networking 101 is never make yourself feel like you're someone just want to have something, take something from someone else. You also want to give. But what can an Olah give? Or what can someone who's new in the country actually give? Because he doesn't have any connections himself. And does he have to offer anything? Does he have to think about that as much as, obviously, if you're Israeli, you would have to think about it much more. And the second thing is, but we'll take the second one.
That's a good question. That's a good question, and I think that's something that every Olah needs to internalize, that they do have something to give. They might come here with this misken attitude. I don't know anyone. I don't have anything. My Hebrew isn't great. You have a lot. The fact that you're from, let's say, a different country, you have a whole skill set behind you. You have the language. You have your opportunities. You have whatever you brought with you is special. Israel is becoming so globalized, and I feel like today, in order to get a job in tech, you have to have great English or mother tongue English. That's a huge skill people are looking for. I think when you're going to meet with someone, obviously it depends what's the point of the meeting. Are you trying to get a job? Are you trying to consult with someone and get their advice? Whatever it might be, you have something to bring, and it could even be just offering to them. If you have great English, if you ever need me to go over a proofreading, or if I can be helpful in any way. I mean, but that's something really important that you have to identify before any meeting, anytime you're networking with someone. You have to know what your skill set is and your strong points and how you can bring that forward. And it's no longer a disadvantage to be an Olah, if it ever was. Right now, I think it's a super advantage. I feel like I have a lot of friends who made Aliyah, and they're super valuable at their places of work because of the experience they had, let's say in America, or the degree they got in America, or whatever work experience, professional experience. It's extremely helpful, I think, and diversifies. And people just need to be confident with themselves.
Amazing. And so the next question I had was also then how do you okay, so let's say you identify your strong points, your strengths. How do you figure out, you identify also, you have to obviously identify where you want to go, what's your goals, where do you want to work in. And I know you started out in the nonprofit and then you switch into the tech sector without having a techie background. So how do you reach, first of all, how do you then reach out, make the first reach outs by email or by cold emailing or going to meetups? How would you advise people of doing it?
I think the advice is, I have a lot of tips for job seekers, I must say, and people who are looking to make a pivot, because I lived through it. I was looking for work for 7 months, so I definitely have some pointers. I think you have to be a yes man. You have to be totally open to meeting whoever, going to whatever, be completely open-minded. It doesn't matter if something seems super not what you were looking for. It's so worth it to meet with as many people as you can, to hear about their experiences, learn about them, be extremely gracious to them, and, don't make them schlep out to meet you for coffee. You make the effort, you send the thank you follow-up, you come prepared and do your homework with the person. I think I tried to do everything. I mean, I told my network what I was looking for. If you see anything, I sent out my resume to friends and people. So much of it is through word of mouth. So much of it really is because of those connections. I also applied, but honestly, applying on Glassdoor or LinkedIn, the percentage that they got back to me was so slim compared to if I spoke to someone who I knew or a friend of a friend. And I think you just really have to be open, and there's no shame. First of all, there's no shame in not having work, and there's no shame. It's actually amazing to make a change in your career, and you just have to be really open. And I feel like cold emails I didn't do as much, but if I would tell friends and they would say, I should introduce you to this person.
Exactly.
And they would make an intro email. It's so much better coming from a friend, because no one wants to just take a Joe Schmo in. They want someone who knows someone. It's these connections. And like I said, all the work I've ever done in Israel is because of connections. And I've learned so much from all these opportunities, and I would not have gotten them if I didn't know people who knew the person or was the person who was hiring or recruiting.
But also the way that you did it. You say you thought about a little bit of what is your goals, where you wanna go in, and help people help you, and help people. Because if you just send an email, I'm looking for a job, here's my CV,
no.
Can you help me? Do you get that email, those emails sometimes?
Actually, I get those emails a lot.
And what do you do? What can you? I mean, obviously you would know.
It depends
but still,
who. If I have a good friend or someone, if in that situation it's people who are mentors or close friends who I send them the CV, tell them what I'm looking for. Any leads would be greatly appreciated. As many face-to-face meetings as possible. That's what I would do. But if it is someone that I do not know, I would not straight up send them my CV. I would tell them I want to meet with them. And everyone's time is money. You don't want to waste anyone's time. And I think it's super important when you meet with someone, you say, I just moved to Tel Aviv. I'm looking for these kind of opportunities. X said you were a wonderful contact for me to have. I would so much love to take you for coffee. You pay for that coffee. You better pay for that coffee. And meet you wherever convenient and hear a bit about your experience at whatever. I mean, I think people love talking about themselves. You need to make it easy for them. You need to follow up with them. When I didn't have a job for those 6-7 months, I made an Excel sheet of all the people I had coffee with over that time period. And once I got a job and accepted the job, and obviously after every after every meeting, I thanked them in a WhatsApp or an email. But when I got the job, I emailed every single person individually, telling them I got this job and thank you so much for meeting with me, because you have to, because you can't take it for granted, and you can't
also you want to keep those connections going for next time you're looking for a job, and and you already did so much work of meeting the. It's like you're sowing the seed, as you said, or reaping the. Well, how you say it in English? Reaping the
benefits.
Reaping the benefits, like
fruit,
the fruits. You made a lot of work to get this meeting up and running, and then nurturing that relation or showing some gratification for it. That's like
you have to. So, I'm telling you, so many of these connections, I'm still in touch with these people, and it's relevant. It's always relevant because they're so helpful to me, and if I see something helpful to them, I send it along. Or if I met with so many different investors in the past and now in my current role, where we want investors to send us portfolio companies who could be great for our program, and that's a win-win. So now I can turn to these investors and say, hey, any of your portfolio companies, interested, or this company of yours looks amazing, would love to have them apply, whatever. I mean, it's so important. And the networking, I mean, it's so important whether you're looking for a job or not looking for a job. And I have to say, just because I really don't want to forget this, and I think it's really important, if you are job seeking, while you are networking with the people interviewing you, you are networking with people at that company, and you need to leave a lasting impression. And if you don't get the job or what it might be, you need to finish professionally, properly, and positively. There were 3 incidents for 3 different companies that I didn't get the job that I wanted. And I thank you. After that, thank you so much. If there's another interesting opportunity, please let me know. And those 3 companies, a couple months later, followed back with me saying, oh, this position just opened up and we thought you'd be a great fit. And that's super important. And that has to do with connecting with people. That has to do with networking. You're networking all the time. And even out some of the organizations, if I didn't get hired or it didn't work out, if I saw their positions, I had already befriended the HR. So I sent friends' resumes saying, this is my friend and they're amazing. And just from their relationship with me, interviewing me in that process, they could kind of trust me. Yeah. And if I brought forward connections to people, that's me bringing value to the recruiter for a job that I didn't end up taking or I didn't get. And I think that's really important because we all have something that we can give back or connect. I just love connecting. I want to connect people for shidduch marriages. I want to connect people for jobs.
So anyone who's looking to get married, get in touch with Stephanie. She's a shadchanit. I love it. And she's a super, basically that's the anatomy or the DNA of a super connector, as we say now. They like it. They do it naturally.
I love it.
And it gives them tremendous value. So
finding the common ground is the most important thing. I think if you're going to an event or anytime you're meeting a new person and you want to get to know them more or connect with them, or maybe there's some kind of networking value, you need to find something in common. I think it's crucial. The other day we had a visit from this German delegation. It's one of the biggest German VCs. And they came and we met with them. And then I find out the head investor had lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan for 5 years. And I studied in Ann Arbor. So immediately we bonded over the University of Michigan and Ann Arbor. And we already felt this connection. It was just great. And it was friendly and it was fun. And I think that's something you always have to look for. I don't know if there's a 101 when you go to a big event. Who do you talk to and what do you do? I think you just have to make the effort to talk to someone, follow up with them. People love talking about themselves. So that's another big thing. Let the person chofer you and talk about themselves, hear what they have to say. And again, do what's convenient for them. If you meet someone and you want to follow up, you go to them for coffee and you offer to pay, or you do what you have to do. It just takes that one connection, I really feel, for there to be a domino effect and to start meeting the people and also giving you the confidence, if you don't have it, that, oh, it is easy to connect. Oh, I can do it. In terms of like cold reach outs, again, it depends on what you're trying to do. And if anyone needs any help or wants to meet anyone, I would love to sit with them. And if I can help connect you with the right person, I think LinkedIn is very helpful. If you see a job opportunity or some organization or person you're trying to get to see who your connections are. A lot of people have written to me saying, hey, I see you're connected with this guy. Can you do an intro or, X whatever? I'm looking at this company. Is this a good fit? And I think you can utilize those social networking tools as well.
Great. So I just want to add a little bit and support a little bit of what you just said, because what you mentioned is like it's very natural when people meet. They look for some kind of common ground. We call it, you're looking for some kind of uncommon commonality. You're looking for something that's, let's say two Israelis meets in India. Suddenly, that's something that's a little bit uncommon.
Right.
But they haven't. But when they're in Israel, it's not so.
Right.
They won't just start talking to each other just because they're Israelis.
Right.
So you have to find some common ground, but it's not something that is.
Oh yes.
And that connects people somehow. I don't know exactly why the algorithm of that, but that's how people work.
Yeah. That's how they bond. We have something in common.
That's rare. That's relatively rare. Yeah.
Well, Israelis in India, there's just so many. I'm sure at this point, Israelis, when they see other Israelis in India, they're just like, oh, Israelis. I don't want to go over there.
I want to meet some Indians now.
I think that's how it is. They don't even want to hang out with other Israelis. They're just sick of it. And there's hummus on the menu. But that's another story.
But if I meet a Danish person in Israel, right, then suddenly that's very, very,
that's
exciting. It would be exciting to meet him in Denmark, but it's exciting to meet him here, right? So everybody have these so looking for those kind of uncommon commonalities. That's a great way to bond and connect with people.
Definitely.
But you also mentioned the thing that when people reach out to you for help, but obviously, would you help someone you never met? Like, would you refer them to someone else you haven't met before, really in person? Just someone writing you an email, like. Wouldn't you think that
No, I wouldn't refer someone. Well, it depends what it is. Yeah. But if I don't know the person, I can't speak to their character. If it's a friend of a friend who I haven't met, it really just depends on the relationship with the ultimate person we're trying to connect with. Whether it depends. If I'm super close with someone and I see that a friend of a friend is trying to get to that certain someone, I would probably run it by the good friend first that they're ultimately trying to contact, saying, hey, a friend of a friend is interested in meeting. I totally understand if you're busy. My friend says she is XYZ. I haven't met them, but wanted to try to connect. You keep it as low pressure as possible. I wouldn't refer someone I never met because I don't know. And
your reputation is online.
My reputation would be on the line, and I would want to help them. I mean, if it was a friend of a friend, depending on what the connection is, I may want to talk to them, get a better understanding of what they're looking for, what they're trying to do. And then if I had a good talk, oh my God, talk on the phone with them or whatever, then I could say to that person, hey, I had a chat with this person. They seem like a great fit for XYZ. I think it's just super important that you know that person before you pass the name along.
Definitely. And this is how this is very human nature. I mean, we wanna connect people, but we also kind of wanna help, like, again, connecting someone else to someone else. You also want to create value for that third person. So you don't want him to waste his time also. So you have to think about it. This is a win-win situation. And so you have to create a little bit some kind of trust or intimacy. I want to hear a little bit about some personal stories. Like, do you have some stories of how you built a connection and how it scaled and made it everything came together?
Yes, I need to think for a second. I feel like
it's obviously not.
I'll give you a good story, and it has to do with this topic of networking and schmoozing, which is my most favorite topic ever. Before I made Aliyah, I studied abroad at Hebrew U, semester abroad, before I realized that I wanted to move here and join the army. And I befriended an Israeli who was a friend of a friend named Shlomi Edelstein, and he was a shaliach at Camp Ramah, and that's how we kind of had this American connection. We became friends. I moved back to Israel. We kept in touch. Shlomi now works at the Jewish agency, and he works with the shlichim that are going to be doing shlichut in America, in Australia, all over the world. And we've kept in touch, and we've seen each other here and there, and I went to his wedding. And he needed someone to do a schmoozing workshop to the Israeli shlichim. And for me, this is like the mother lode, the dream. I have a sweet spot for shlichim, for Israelis who have this connection to diaspora Jewry and want to connect with the communities there. It's something I grew up with. It means so much to me because I have this Jewish American community element, and then I have the Israeli element, having been here and lived here. And I got to give a schmoozing workshop. I created and presented a workshop to the emissaries on what does schmoozing mean and how do you network in America and what does that look like and what do you do when you go to the Federation event for the first time and you don't know anyone and what value can you bring them and how can they help you. And honestly, it's one of the most fun things I've done and most memorable and meaningful since I've been in Israel. And that just started with a connection at my semester abroad 8 years ago. And that's something really to this day that I love it so much. And if anyone needs a schmoozing workshop pro bono, I'm happy to do it. But there's tons of stories about the connecting. And like I said, and I just want to bring this up because I think it is a funny story or whatever. Like I said, my parents are major schmoozers and networkers. And my mom is a fundraiser. And one of the things she does,
for being a fundraiser.
Yeah. Well, so is my dad's a fundraiser. One of my brothers is a fundraiser. Everyone's just all about that. Good people, very good people. But one of my mom's kta'im, one of her things is making banana bread for the donors. And she makes banana bread and brings it to the guy who fixes the car. And she uses banana bread as a way to establish trust and a connection. And I love it. It's something she did. She would make 10 at a time, and she'd give it to this one, that one. And I think it's something we can kind of all take away that, it's kind of going the extra mile to connect with someone and make an effort and be memorable. And she means it, I mean, she's not just making it because she feels like she should. She really wants to. And I love that. And I started making banana bread, but I don't bring it to all my meetings or use it necessarily as a way to connect people. But I think just that concept can be helpful for all of us. I mean, what can we do to stand out and show someone we appreciate their time or appreciate their trust? And I just think that's so important. And I could probably, I don't know. I mean, I can't think of it now, but I have so many people who've been so, so helpful to me since I moved here. I just need to thank them. And honestly, I will just say that before we talked about Jerusalem Village and Lisa Barkan, and she is a major networker, and she knew the Jerusalem scene down pat. She knew everyone. She knew the politics. She knew the who, what, where, when. And when I started the job, she took me everywhere with her. I was like her, I was the Robin to Batman. She was Batman. And she said, meet him, meet her, go to coffee with this one. She literally all the time threw me at people to meet with, but it's the best possible thing she could have done because I met so many people because of that. And I think if you can find those people who are happy and willing to help, you take it. You be a yes man and you meet the people. And it's a lot of energy, but it's worth it. And you can really bring them value and they can bring you value. And you just got to believe in yourself and believe in the win-win mentality, because if you don't have that, no one's going to want to hang out with you. And no one's going to want to help you if they just think you're after a specific agenda.
And also be prepared, right, for knowing what you want to ask for. Like prepare,
yeah.
It's easy to just meet, but in the end of the day, people go back and they continue their life and they forget about a lot of things, and they have to have what is it that again Stephanie needed help with, or what is it? And sometimes the intent of most people are that they want to help, right? Especially in Israel, people do really want to help. So make it easy for them to help you.
Oh yes.
By having it prepared, right? Having some kind of this is what I'm looking for.
Oh, you have to, because if you're going to take someone's time, it doesn't matter if it's a job interview or just meeting someone for coffee and you want to get their advice. You come prepared. You do your homework on that person. You find out about that person, what they're doing. You ask them about themselves, and you come prepared with questions. You can't waste anyone's time. You need to know what you want to get out of the meeting, and so they know as well. And the follow-up is very important. You thank them afterward. You send a thank you message, or email, you remind them, as we discussed, if you could please intro me to Bob, whatever, that would be extremely appreciated. Please let me know if I can be helpful to you in any way. Would love to connect. Would love to have you for coffee at our offices sometime. Whatever. You
If
always
you're not
leave
looking
it.
for a job, then
Right.
at my coffee shop.
Right. But obviously when
Yeah.
it's the same. It doesn't
Yes,
matter if
yes,
you're
yes.
looking for a job or looking for advice. I mean, you have to do the prep beforehand and come in ready and ask the right questions.
Okay. So one of the last questions I want to ask, we've been talking for more than half an hour. So this is okay. We're talking a lot about how Olim network. What about the startups that come to you and you work with a lot of startups? How do they reach out? How is there kind of good advice you can give to them on either are they looking for business more? Are they looking for partnerships or are they looking for investors usually?
So it depends on the startup and
Yeah.
what stage they're at and what exactly they're looking for. In my role and my team's role at SAPIO, it is less about the investors. Obviously, if we can make a warm intro and it's relevant and it's appropriate, which is super important because you can't just connect everyone all the time. If we can make that solid, appropriate intro, we do. But it's really about connecting the startups with SAP customers, with potential SAP customers. It's the biz dev element of it. So we have a lot of delegations coming in from Germany, from here, from there.
Okay.
And Israel is pretty isolated. I mean, we're,
So you're bringing the customers.
Yeah, so
They're basically going to be their
a lot
customers.
of delegations from all over the world and are coming to Israel. They're looking at corporate innovation in Israel and how it's successful. They're looking at the startup scene. They're looking at the VC world. It is such a saturated VC ecosystem in Israel. So a lot of people are coming here, but the reality is that's it. I mean, in other places, there's so much more action in terms of customers coming in and out and internationals coming in and out. A lot of the startups in Israel are focusing on global markets. They're not focusing on selling their product to the Israeli market. They're trying to get into Europe, into the US. And so we are kind of using our platform and leveraging SAP to connect those global customers with our startups. So that's something we're really trying to do. And, we're in touch with all these different organizations who bring delegations all the time. Startup Nation Central, the Paris Center, the German Chamber of Commerce. And they say, hey, this delegation is coming. Could this be interesting to your startups? And then we check out who are these people? What are they looking for? Who can be interesting for us to connect them with? And sometimes we have delegations come and our startups aren't relevant, but we consult with other local VCs to see who they would recommend for them to meet. We want to be helpful all the time. Open door. Everyone's welcome. Come have coffee in our office. And I think it's really important because it's the core of all this. That's what it's about.
Amazing. Do you have any last advice, words that we didn't talk about?
What else can I say? I feel like we
covered a lot.
We covered a lot.
We covered a lot.
I mean, there's always a lot to say, but I think when it comes to the networking and the job search and just being in Israel and being from not a native Israeli, it is a challenge. It's hard to find your way, but I see more and more support groups. There's Olim and Tech on Facebook. There's Ima Kadima, and they have a Facebook group as well. There are a lot of different organizations that are there to try and help you. The Nefesh B'Nefesh Hub, Gvahim. Shout out, I just recommended Gvahim to 2 people this week. There are a lot of resources here.
The check is in the mail.
The check is you can just do a transfer on Bit. But yeah, I think just a lot of people want to help. And I think that the key is it's okay to ask for help, and you have to ask for help. And a lot of people like being given the opportunity to help. And once that happens, you can help other people too. And I think it's a nice chain effect and a ripple effect. And yeah.
That's how the world works.
That's how it works.
Especially in Israel works.
Yeah, that's how it works here. But I really mean it that if anyone or if you meet anyone who wants to talk about this or discuss further, or if I can be helpful, I'm really happy to do so. And I want everyone to succeed. And it's not easy and it's not a straight path at all, but it can happen.
Great. Thanks a lot, Stephanie
Thank
Horwitz
you.
from SAP.io as you're working.
Yes.
Accelerator. Thanks for coming to the studio.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thank you for great advice. And you are yourself a shining example of an Olah success story, a testimonial. You've done great. And and if people want to connect to you, what is your email, or you have?
We could do my.
Or just look you up on LinkedIn, basically.
Yeah, look me up on LinkedIn. Stephanie Horwitz. Yep, Horwitz, and I'm a connection with Yoni, so you can always go to his page and find me.
Amazing. Thanks, Stephanie.
You.
Great. Yeah.
Good job.
It's funny to be. You feel like you're a radio host, right?
You do. I want to do this all the time. I love it. Oh my God, it's so fun.